Welcome back to the Chicago Bulls chat, part of See Red UK. I'm Matt. On tonight's episode, we're going to quick recap of Bulls' latest games, speak a bit more about the NBA Emirates Cup, and we're going to implement our new Matt Neill wish list. So after the intro, make sure you come back and give it a listen.
Welcome to Chicago Bulls Chat with See Red UK. This podcast is part of the Fans First Sports Network. Wherever or however you're listening, make sure to rate, review and subscribe. It helps us out and means you never miss another episode. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit the thumbs up button and leave some comments for us to get back to. And for all the See Red UK action, check out the Discord channel and across the socials. Now, over to your hosts, Matt Hearn and Neil Dunn.
Welcome back. I'm Matt, and as usual, joined by Neil. How are we doing, Neil?
I'm okay. I'm a bit uncomfortable, actually, if I'm honest. My kids managed to break my chair that I normally sit in to record. So I'm now sitting on a really uncomfortable folding out chair. So I do apologise if I'm a bit more squirmy than normal.
Well, yeah.
You weren't expecting that, were you?
No. As you can tell, I've still got a bit of a cough, so
Get over it.
if I start laughing, I'll probably start coughing, and yeah. But obviously, we're recording this on the back of a back-to-back. So both pretty tired. Been a bit of a stressful day for both of us for different reasons, which we're not going to get into. But you know, obviously Thanksgiving in the US at the minute, so to those that celebrate, happy Thanksgiving. To us, it's just a normal day. Hence why we're recording.
But we're thankful to be here.
Maybe.
No, well, maybe.
It depends how the conversation goes.
That's true.
So, I mean, obviously, to start with, we'll start this with the way we always do, with a quick recap. Put my teeth in. Quick recap of the last week for the Chicago Bulls.
Are you sure?
Something like that, anyway. Obviously, since the last episode, there's been 4 games which we did give our predictions for, and as I recap the game quickly, I'll recap the predictions and see where we went right or wrong. Obviously, the first game up was a cup game against the Hawks, which Bulls ended up winning 136-122. I predicted a loss, you predicted the win, so 1-0 to you. Second of the back-to-back after that game was against the Memphis Grizzlies, which Bulls lost 142-131. Both predicted the L. So, tie. Then, first of the second back-to-back was against the Wizards in another cup game, which Bulls won 127-108. I predicted the win, you predicted the trap game loss, and so tied it all up. And then this morning, whatever you want to call it, we faced the Magic in the second of the back-to-back and lost 133-119. We both predicted the L. So we got it right in a roundabout way.
Yeah, just went in different directions to get there.
Between us, we got it right.
Exactly, yeah.
Obviously, as always, not going to dive into the games too much, but there's a few talking points that come from them. More surrounding the cup than anything, which we're going to get into after this little bit. And the Hawks game in particular was about Matas Buzelis, wasn't it? Because we saw some good minutes from him.
Yeah.
And it's kind of what Bulls Nation wanted to see. Obviously, P. Will out for the games. And the rotations have just, the rotations have just gone to pot, haven't they? We've got 4-guard lineup with Ayo playing at the 4, because, why not? And to be fair, he's kept that place for all 4 games.
Well, he's deserved to.
Obviously it has led to Bulls Nation asking why Matas isn't getting the start. He's got more minutes in these games, but then last night fouled out in however many minutes he got. And I think that's why he's not starting. I don't know about you, but to me, he's not ready to start.
No, but look, it's like we've discussed in the past. Like, I don't think we put as much stock in to being a starter as maybe others do.
Mm.
You know, it is more about the minutes and the impact you have when you're playing, as opposed to being the first one, you know, going on the floor for the start of the game. You know, it's like I've often said before, start someone just to keep face, but you can bench them after a couple of minutes and then bring somebody else in. And that's kind of been happening from time to time this season already, where players might be the starters, but they're sitting down for big chunks of the game, really.
Yeah, I mean, Giddy's obviously getting the start, but he's probably playing the least amount of minutes out of the starters.
Point in case.
And Ayo, Matas are getting more minutes, or definitely got more minutes than him last night. And yeah, it's just. I mean, the rotations are all over the place at the minute as well, and I think it's hard to get any kind of grasp on what certain players are doing, what individuals are doing, and as it's something that we've spoke about in private is the way the schedule's working at the minute. It's not been favourable to Bulls, not been favourable to Billy. Obviously, throw in the odd couple of injuries. Obviously, DT left the game last night with his ankle sprain.
Yep.
No further updates yet. We've lost P. Will. Lonzo come back last night after missing 15 games. So you kind of can give a little bit of sympathy to Billy in the fact that the rotations are all over the place. And it's something we're going to speak about when we talk about the cup games. Like, the Bulls seem to be having a back-to-back, having a day off, having a back-to-back. And it's like, how does Billy keep them fresh? Because they're having no time to practice, having no real sort of recovery time, because they're either playing, flying, or prepping to play. That seems to be how it's been. And, you know, it's. I imagine all teams will go through it at some point in the season. But, I mean, we're 20 games into the season now, and it feels like we're about 40 games into the season. So.
Yeah, so I mean, we don't have basketball games to play and training to try and squeeze in, but it feels like we've been non-stop for the first 20 games as well ourselves because, you know, obviously staying up late for games and being in this part of the world and then trying to squeeze in recording as well. It just feels like there's no nights off for us. So I can only imagine what it feels like for the players.
Well, I mean, look at it now. Obviously, we've just on the back of the back-to-back. So the last 2 nights we've been up at midnight here in the UK to watch the games.
Yeah.
We're now recording tonight, so it's not a night off as such for us. I know, poor us, you know, get the violins out. And then tomorrow is game day again. So we're going to be up at 1 a.m. Saturday morning to watch another game. And then, you know, so like you say, we're not playing, but it's been quite tiring just as a fan. So you can kind of get a little bit of a feeling about how the players must be feeling when, you know, they're putting the wear and tear on the bodies, not having proper chance to recover, putting more wear and tear on the bodies, not having chance to recover, flying to a different city, not having chance to recover, putting wear and tear on the bodies. It just seems to be a continuous grind. And I guess we've kind of got to a point in the schedule now where they are going to have a few days in Chicago. But obviously, they're all off today for Thanksgiving. They're in Chicago tomorrow to face Celtics. Then it'll be Saturday, Sunday off. I'm sure the Nets game's at the UC as well next week. And then another couple of days off, and then they fly to San Antonio for another back-to-back, which the second one's back in Indiana. So, again, it's this whole thing of the back-to-backs aren't close either at the minute with the schedule. It's, like I say, we're in San Antonio, play the game, fly from San Antonio to Indiana to play another game, whereas Pacers might have had the last 2 days off. And it's,
Yeah.
I'm not making excuses because there's been some poor play in these games, but last night they just looked against Magic. They looked like they couldn't really be bothered. There was just no real sort of cohesion between them. They looked frustrated. They looked a little bit angry with each other at times, and the turnovers are becoming more ridiculous looking.
They were bad last night.
It was just like there was no, like they never even met each other before with some of them, and it was like, you know, like they don't want to be on the court with each other half of the time.
Like
and
pickup game.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, before we move on, is there anything else from the games that you've noticed aside from the schedule and?
Yeah, no, and it's
Horrors.
like you say about the schedule, right? I mean, it has to come around because every team is playing the same number of games over the same period of time. So it has been fairly relentless at the start of the season. And maybe that means that it'll be a little bit more easygoing towards the back end of the season. I haven't really done a deep dive on it that far in for quite some time. But I'm pretty sure that it has to even out, you know. So at some point we will find ourselves getting that reprieve when other teams maybe are being pushed that little bit harder than we are. But it's a tough way to start a season, to be relentlessly going at it. And like it's a recipe for injury, as you know, we have seen with a few players already. I do want to mention one thing though about last night's game, because you know we've said that they looked terrible and nobody was involved and nobody was interested. There was one standout player last night, and in all of our votes for the top 3 players and bull of the game, it's been a unanimous decision, which doesn't happen that often. But Io was absolutely stand out above all other players last night. It's not that he was absolutely amazing. He was really solid and really good, but he looked like he wanted to be there. He looked like he cared. He looked like he wanted to win. The only player that really looked like that from start to finish.
Yeah, I mean, he was a 10 or 12 from the field. I think the ones that he missed were the 3-pointers as well.
3-pointers.
I think was he 1 of 3 from 3, something like that.
I think so. I remember him hitting one anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember putting the emoji up. I'd agree with that. And I mean, we were quite critical of Io on last week's episode, and it's something else from these games. Is it's still the same thing of if you criticize the wrong player, people aren't interested. You've got to be sort of on the bandwagon and criticizing Josh Giddey more than anybody. You know, because he's the only one out there playing or not playing defense, should I say. But it's like we said last week, it's a team effort. There's 5 of them on the floor. And in these 4 games in particular, you've seen when they look good and when they look bad. And it's like I said over the weekend, to me, Josh Giddey was the best player for Bulls over the 2 games against Hawks and Grizzlies. Mainly because of the criticism that he'd faced. I thought he had a bit of a bounce back and stuff like that. And in last night's game, I think he helped Io in that third get on that bit of a run. And I can't remember which game it was. Was it the Wizards game where he got Buzelis going?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, isn't it? Giddey has been under fierce criticism. And I do think that you and I aren't exactly parallel on our feelings about Giddey. But at the same time, I'm not using him as a scapegoat, and I'm not completely and utterly coming down on him and being critical of him all the time. I do think that he has a very, very difficult hill to climb in regards to how Bulls Nation have felt about him since the minute he walked through the door. It wasn't his fault that the trade was what it was, but it's like he's being punished for it a lot of the time. And I don't think that that's particularly fair. I don't think he is what AK were hoping he would be, but I don't think he is as bad as a lot of people are saying either. And, you know, some of the stuff that he does is incredible and doesn't get praised enough. But then, you know how I feel about him in regards to his defense and his finishing around the rim. And that's where he just needs to really tighten up on both of those areas of his game. And I'm not out on him by any stretch of the imagination, like a lot of people are. But I'm not quite singing his praises as highly as perhaps you are. Now, at the moment, I think we're both prepared to sit and wait and see how it develops with Giddy. And I very much think that he could well be closer to what AK thought he would be than what everybody seems to be saying he is by the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're 20 games in.
Exactly. But
So-
we also use 20 games as our marker normally for kind of making these critiques and making these kind of assumptions about what players are looking like and going to look like going forward. So I think it's a good point at which to sort of like stick a pin in it and say, right, this is what we think so far. Let's see what happens for the next 20 games.
Yeah, absolutely. So, anything else from them games, or ready to talk the NBA Emirates Cup? Now, the reason why we wanted to talk about it is because obviously we're in the midst of the NBA Emirates Cup. And for 2 of the last 4 games have been cup games. Like we said, the Hawks and the Wizards won. Tomorrow night against Celtics is now pretty much a do or die, and it's the 21st game of the season. And we just wanted to sort of revisit the cup because obviously we spoke about it last year, like everyone else did. Give our opinions. Weren't particularly keen on it, but it was because it was new and nobody really understood it. I think you kind of understand it a little bit more now, but it's still a little bit confusing in some aspects. And we just kind of wanted to. It's something we've been chatting about privately, about ways to possibly improve it, streamline it a little bit, and just give our thoughts on it a year on, basically, to see if they've changed from last year. Because, like I said, I think we were both pretty much out on it last year. Didn't particularly like it. Was intrigued by it, but and yeah, I'll be honest. Bulls going 0-4 last year in the cup gave me no interest in it whatsoever. Obviously, at the minute they are sitting 2-1, top of the group. Celtics tomorrow night win it and they go through. Lose it and there's a chance they can go through in the wild card, depending what happens with the Cavs Wizards game next week. And yeah, I mean, obviously before we go into ways we think it could be improved, tweaked, whatever, what's your general sort of take on it at the minute?
Yeah, I like the idea of it now. I kind of felt that way last year as well. I like the idea of it. I just wasn't sure about the execution. I'm still not entirely sure of the execution. I think they've got things a little bit better this year than they did last year. I think as well, taking away the title of in-season tournament and actually calling it now an outright NBA Cup or the Emirates Cup is better. It kind of makes it feel that little bit more different to the regular season. I'm still not really sure how I feel about the fact that it's so intertwined with regular season games and cup games. For me, they should be entirely independent of each other. I think that's something that they need to look at. I'm not sure how well that would go down when they already have an 82 game season, though, and that's where the problem lies, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they've tried to go similar to football / soccer, whatever you want to call it, in the sense of having the cup. Now, obviously, we're used to how cup competitions run over this side of the world. Obviously, American sports don't tend to do it. It's regular season, playoffs, that's it. Obviously, anyone who listens to this regularly knows I watch British ice hockey, and they do a cup competition in the league that I watch anyway, where it's very similar to how the NBA Cup's running at the minute, but they have tweaked it again this season. So the first so many fixtures against each opposition are classed as a league and cup game, obviously the same way the NBA is. And then it goes on to like the league thing, so the top 4 at the end of the scheduled cup games then go to the semi-finals, 2 legs, aggregate winner, finals winner, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I agree with what you're saying. It'd be better if it was a standalone thing with the NBA.
Yeah.
But obviously, the schedule's hectic enough as it is, as we've just discussed. But for me, if they really want to make the cup a thing, and they want the players to buy into it, the fans to buy into it, everything like that, they need to make it about the cup. So have a cup week, for example. So instead of this, the cup games will be played on these days, it'll be on a Tuesday and a Friday. You might get a cup game, you might not get a cup game, but then you might get 2 in a week, but then you might not get one the following week, or that seems to be how it's gone. And as we've seen with Bulls, they had the cup game first, and then the back-to-back, second of the back-to-back, the day after. And I think that, obviously Bulls won the 2 cup games, but it hindered one or the other, because obviously they want to try and put up the points differential, stuff like that. So they need the starters out there to ideally do it. Obviously we didn't against Washington, but but then as we saw against Wizards, Ayo was out there quite late on, and Kuzma got a flagrant foul on him. It pulled his shoulder down as he went to jump up. That could have led to injury, but Ayo didn't need to be out there. And it might not have been a serious injury, but he could have missed last night's game because of a little niggly injury, a little stinger, whatever it happens to be. So, to me, the game should be standalone. So, say, right, the week of this, you're going to have the Tuesday game and the Thursday game. They're both going to be cup games. No back-to-backs, and every team plays. Because obviously it's all conference thingy anyway. Yeah, it means tweaking the schedule around, but it's like, right, Tuesday, everyone plays a cup game. Thursday, everyone plays a cup game. You then have Friday off. Saturday, you can have a regular game. And then the following week, Tuesday, everyone has a cup game. Thursday, everyone has a cup game. So then that's the group stage took care of. You've played your 4 games. Then the following week could be your semi-finals, your losers games, whatever, quarterfinals, and your losers going against each other. And the competition could be done in 3 weeks, doing it that way. So it could be basically, right, November is cup month, and it's going to work like this. I know it's pretty much done in November anyway, but it kind of, to me, it drags on. I mean, like, Bulls have got the last cup game tomorrow against Celtics, but the group doesn't finish tomorrow because Cavs and Wizards play on Tuesday. So it's like, to me, the group should all finish at the same time as it does in, like, the Champions League and stuff like, or used to before they revamped all that. So it's like the groups play on the same night, it finishes on the same night. Done. You know where you're at, you know who's won, and I think the fixtures need to be sorted out for the losers as well, because there's no kind of real thing to it. You get an opponent from the West, an opponent from the East. You don't know who it's going to be. Surely they should say, right, the winner of the group goes through, or if they've got 3 group winners go through, and then you get the wild cards as well, don't you? I think it is, or 6 group winners and 2 wild cards.
Yeah, two wild cards, one from the East, one from the West.
Yeah, but it should be, why not make it a bit more obvious who you're going to end up playing following that? Do you know what I mean? So if you got when we do it in, like, make the groups different, like, I don't know how they do it, but so you've got, right, you're not through, but you finish 3rd, so you're going to play 4th and 3rd from that group. That's your 2 games when you've lost and you're out.
Like back end seeding.
Yeah, at least you know that they're going to be inter-conference games. There's not going to be as much travel, and obviously you're rewarded for winning the same way they are now. And another thing what's been interesting to me is how we've actually heard from the players this time round on it. I know we heard from Ayo and Giddy in particular, and I think them speaking highly of it has maybe changed my opinion slightly on it as well, in the sense that, you know, they've basically said, yeah, I know it's camera answers and stuff like that, typical media answers, but, you know, they want to go out there, they want to win that money, because at the end of the day, money's money. You know,
yeah, it doesn't matter how much of it you have, you still want more, right?
Yeah, but obviously, I mean, I can't remember what they win. Is it 500 grand, something like that?
Yeah,
Or 50 grand, one or the other. You know, 500k to Zach is different to 500k to EJ Liddell. You know what I mean?
this is
So,
very true.
but then, you know, I'm sure Zach could quite easily use another 500k. Don't know what on. Maybe another house, another few cars. But then there's no reason why they can't invest the money into something. So they still want to win it as such. And I mean, obviously, to me as well, the courts, they need to be looked at, because some of them
brutal,
are hideous. Was it the Timberwolves one you showed me yesterday?
Yeah,
Disgusting.
it's disgusting. It really is. It's like someone just threw up over the court.
I'd seen a video of a clip from the Heat game, and theirs is bright yellow, and it's just like, oh my god, what? I get it. You're trying to sell something, and obviously you can still have a nice fancy court, but why do they have to be so garish?
Exactly.
Why the Raptors one to me was the favourite one, the best looking one. If you haven't seen it, it's got their City Edition logo, the dinosaur dunking in honour of Vince Carter in it. That's the logo they've gone from the City Edition. It's a logo that's in the middle of the floor, and then it's just got a nice little arc of purple around the 3-point line, and then whatever they've done around the outskirts as well. But it's enough to say, "Oh, that's different."
Yep.
But it's not enough to go, "Whoa, what the my eyes," sort of thing. It's, you know, I imagine it's quite an enjoyable court to watch basketball on, not like our red, the Wizards pink, the Heat yellow. I get it. Try and make the game stand out. You know, I think Giddy highlighted that. You know, the court's been different and stuff like that, but just do it in a different way.
But do you know, on that, right? They all seem to be, or a lot of the courts anyway, seem to be doing the NBA Cup as the paint areas at both ends of the court, right? So that looks fine. And then a lot of them are going for either a centerpiece or some sort of like writing or shading or design on the court. That's all fine. That's all lovely. Why not? Why not do that? And that's exactly what Raptors have done. They've gone for that ginormous logo of the Raptor, dunking like Vince Carter, which is class looking. Great, one of my favorite all time logos. Anyway, why they ever had to change it is beyond me. But it looks absolutely savage. But then the rest of the court is just a normal court, and they could have done that. Like the Bulls have got that, like the impression of the logo, of the outline of the logo on the court. But it's actually quite lost. It's quite hard to see it because it's surrounded by this garish red. And if you took the red away and just had some sort of a normal kind of color for the court, like some sort of a nice wood look with the two cups in the paint and the logo in the middle, or some sort of special design, Bulls design. I mean, was it you who suggested even maybe the Benny the Bull logo head instead of the normal Bulls logo head? Something like that in the middle to stand out, with the imprint of the Bulls logo on the floor in the background in a lighter red, and just get rid of that bright red. Just have a normal court. That would have looked really, really well, I think. But they just,
I mean, obviously, Bulls famously have never changed the logo.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you can't what word am I thinking of? Like what they do with they've done with the City edition, where they've changed the colouring.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as our logo is behind you, the red eyes, see red.
Yeah.
You know, they could do something like that that's a bit more simple, a bit more. Oh yeah, look at that. The bull's got red eyes, or the bull is to match the City edition jerseys that they're going to play on that court, or the statement, because they change the bull for the statement games, don't they? On the graphics and stuff like that. You know, so anything like that could be done, and it just wouldn't
Absolutely.
be as garish.
Absolutely. And actually, speaking about, they don't really change the logo and haven't changed the logo, which is something that I love, by the way. But this is the opportunity to have a bit of fun with it, play around with it a little bit. They do the artist series hats for the last 7 seasons, and a lot of the time it's the logo that gets played around with by the artists in those hats. Get something like that. Take one of those designs, or get one of the artists to design a play on the Bulls logo. Just for, they're not changing the logo. It's just for those games, 4 to 6 games, and it could look really well. It could look really well. It's not even 4 to 6 games, is it? Because they're not all home games. So you're looking at 3 games really.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just obviously back on the cup. I mean, like I said, I think I've changed my opinion on it slightly from how it was last year. Obviously, it's how it is running now. Yeah, Bulls having a winning record in it so far does help. You know, I am that sort of person. I still don't think I'd appreciate a banner being hung for it. Not yet. But
they,
do remember
they could hang that banner in the Advocate, and they doesn't need to be in the UC, right?
I mean, I do remember us saying last season that it could be similar to the playing, in the sense that until you're in it, until you experience it, you don't appreciate it.
Yeah, maybe.
And they said it could take maybe 3-4 years before they've ironed out all the creases in it, and it's like, right, this is now how the cup's going. This is the format. You know, like I've just said, have it as a standalone week, whatever. You know, it's going to take time. It's only the second time we've seen it.
Yeah, I'm open to it, far more than maybe I was last season. I'm definitely open to it. It needs work. It needs to be, like you say, ironed out. It needs to be tweaked. But if they can do that, and if they can find a way that makes it work, yeah, I'm all on for it. I am. I like the idea of it. And like you say, it's a culture that we've grown up in this part of the world, with the likes of soccer and other sports that are more kind of geared towards people in this part of the world. And they all seem to have cup games. It's not just about the league. It's not just about where you finish in the table. The great thing about cup games, and it's one of the things that a lot of people get behind, especially in soccer, is you don't need to be the best team, and you don't need to be leading the table. You can be a nobody and just get up to the level that you need to be, just for a handful of games, enough to knock the top tier teams off. And you could be an underdog and come away with a bit of silverware, which is great.
Yeah, because I mean, I know like the FA Cup in particular was always about the giant killers.
Absolutely.
And obviously it works a little bit different when you're all in the same league anyway. But Pistons, I think I think they're unbeaten so far in the cup. They've had a
there you go
thingy season start. What's to say they don't go on and win it? And that, like I say, it's not really giant killing when you're in the same league, but it's unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
And Pistons fans would love a run, like the Pacers fans last year. They got theirs. Gives a team that ordinarily might not have a lot to cheer about something to be excited about. And
yeah,
obviously Bulls fall into that category at the minute. So yeah. You got anything else on the cup before we move on?
No, I'm good. I think we've covered everything we'd hoped to anyway.
Yeah. So obviously moving on, and just to finish off, we've now got a new segment, what we're calling the Matt Neill Wishlist, or weekly Wishlist. Basically, it's the predictions with a little bit more to
Basically.
obviously, we're finishing as we always do with the predictions for the next games before the next pod. And that is only 2 games this week. Obviously, Celtics tomorrow in the Cup, do or die, and then Nets on Monday night / Tuesday morning. And then hopefully we'll have an episode recorded not long after that.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing with this weekly wish list that we've decided to do is it's not just now about predicting the games. It's also about saying like what we'd like to see from the team, maybe specific players, maybe even front office management, depending on what time of the year it is. Those sorts of things are kind of like what we'd like to see happen with this franchise between now and the next time we record, basically.
Maybe even the fans.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. Depends on what the fans are up to, doesn't it?
Exactly. So we'll give our predictions first, I think, and then we'll give what we want to see or what we'd hope to see, whatever, however you want to word it. So obviously Celtics tomorrow night, cup game, win it, we're through, lose it. I think we've got to wait on what happens with the wild card and stuff. Probably chances are would be out, I'd imagine. But obviously at the UC, what are your thoughts?
Well, see, this is where I would love to say, yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to win it. We've got more to play for than we normally do. Let's take our position in this table for the cup game. But it's Boston, and I just don't see it. I don't, and unfortunately, I think we take the L.
Yeah, and I mean, as I mentioned to you before we started recording, Celtics last played on Tuesday. So they're going to have had 3 days off. Obviously, Wednesday, Thursday. No, Monday they played. I can't remember anyway. But in that time, Bulls have actually played 2 games since Celtics last played. Had a day off, and now they're playing again. And it goes back to the whole schedule thing. So, yeah, it might work in Bulls' favour. You know, Celtics might be a little bit out of sync with each other, whatever. Chances are they're fully rested, dying to get back out on the court and take the win, I'd have thought.
I would have thought so.
I'm going for the L as well.
Sadly.
Yeah.
Be nice, though. Could happen. It's not like we haven't done it in the past.
Yeah. I mean, obviously not in the cup last year. We got
but against Boston.
But yeah, massively embarrassed by him last year. Obviously, then that means Saturday, Sunday off, which is quite a nice feeling. And then Monday night, Tuesday morning, we've got Nets at the UC. Nets obviously just announced that they're without Cam Thomas for the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Right.
Which is a massive
with a hamstring
bonus.
Injury.
Yeah. They've not started the season anywhere near as badly as everyone expected them to.
No.
So what are you saying for this one?
I still think that off the back of what I'm expecting to be is a tough loss against Boston, I still think it'll be after a few days of actually getting some training in, getting some downtime, that it'll be a bounce back game for the Bulls. So I do think it will be a win. I'm hoping it'll be a win anyway. So we'll see.
Yeah, I've gone for a win. And I'm not going to say too much because it's part of my weekly wish list. So onto the wish list part of it then. Obviously, we've given our predictions for the next 2 games, however many days it is. What's on your wish list?
Well, I think this isn't the first thing I want to say. It's not necessarily on my wish list per se, but it's just I think it's a bit of a given. And that is that Zach becomes the leading all-time 3-point scorer for the Chicago Bulls against Boston. I think, that's at this point, I predicted that a few games ago anyway, but that's what I expect to happen is against Boston, that Zach actually scores more than 8 points and gets the number 1 spot as the Bulls all-time 3-point shooter. Anyway, that aside, what I want to see, what I'm hoping to see is it's time now. It is time. Kobe needs to step up. and I want to see Kobe step up. He has been a shadow of himself. He's had 20 games of it now. Come on, Kobe, settle in. I understand that he's had to redesign his game again for the third year in a row, and that's obviously going to impact his game. It must be quite difficult to have to start a season again, kind of going, okay, well, I'd established myself as the point guard last year. Now I have to reestablish myself again as this off-ball player. And I think he's forcing shots, or has been forcing shots, because he's desperately trying to get himself reignited. And it works. A lot of the time it works in the third, late in the third or into the fourth quarter before he'll start kind of hitting things. But it needs to just happen now from start to finish, from game to game. He needs to establish himself in his new role, which may or may not be where he wants to be, but it could very well suit his game if he was to embrace it and stop overthinking. So I guess that's my wish list: is Kobe needs to stop overthinking and just play.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly on the Kobe bit. I mean, obviously we're not going to get into it now, but it's something we have spoke about. I think we even spoke about it on last week's episode, that he's not looked himself, but he also can't seem to be criticised by the majority of Bulls Nation. So, what do I sort of want to see on my wish list? First one is, I don't mind losing to Celtics, because it's Celtics, the reigning champs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've had however many days off. I just don't want to get embarrassed by them. I want it to be a competitive loss. You know, I could take that. If it's anything like last night's game, I'll be wanting to turn it off by half time, because it's just, when the games are that one-sided, it makes it hard to watch. So yeah, as long as, I mean, I don't know what a competitive loss would be, but if we're close enough where there's a chance we could still take it, I'd be happy with that. I just
clutch
don't
finish or clutch game.
I know it's hard, isn't it, with it being the cup, because Celtics aren't going to ease off unless they're already 20 points up. So, you know, I don't want to get to the last 5 minutes and Celtics be 20, 25 points up. If we were within 10, I'd be happy with that.
Okay.
And then I guess as a whole, I just want to see some kind of stability to the rotation. You know, because I know obviously we've now got Lonzo back, and it's like, I don't know, you kind of not had a clue who Billy's going to bring in the last few games. You know, 1 minute Giddy's going out and Ayo's been starting on it, but like DT's coming. Now it's obviously going to be Lonzo, which, yeah, I get that side of it. But then when Ayo goes out, is it Matas that's coming in? Is it Julian Phillips that's coming in? Is it Dalen Terry that's coming in? There's just no sort of fluidity to any of it. And I mean, obviously, last night in particular wasn't helped the fact that we didn't get told anything about Jalen Smith until about 5 minutes into the game, when it was like, oh, he's not playing. And then you're bringing in EJ Liddell, who's on a two-way, to be your backup big. To me, stuff like that can't happen, and I'd rather see Torrey Craig get minutes in that sense, because he is on the roster. Yeah, all right, he's the veteran on the roster, or one of the veterans on the roster. But if you need to play him, Billy, just play him.
Yeah.
I don't understand why you're going down this route of it has to be a youngster to play or whatever. So yeah, just some sort of fluidity to the rotations, and I get it, it's game by game and minute by minute, second by second, but you know, at least the first few rotations give us some kind of idea who it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's about it. I don't know if you've got anything else.
No,
No, neither I. yeah, like I say, we'll be back next week, hopefully between the Nets and the Spurs games. We will be watching the games. If you're not on the Discord at the minute, hit us up. We'll send you the link. Get involved, get on the live thread, have a vote on the bull of the game, 3 players of the game, all the good stuff. And as always, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I've been Matt. You can find me on Twitter, well, all the socials at Matt See Red UK, and you can find us on all the socials at See Red UK.
And I'm on the socials at Neil See Red UK. Thanks to the Fans First Sports Network and, of course, all of See Red UK Nation for tuning in and being a part of this great community. Do remember, it's a Chicago Bulls thing wherever in the world you are. And until next time, see red people and go Bulls.
Help support the podcast and the brand at See Red UK by heading to our merch site, where you'll find a variety of designs on things like mugs, t-shirts and hoodies, including our Bulls Ellis and Flop of the Fro, with plenty more designs still to come. Link is in the description.